This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by All Little Monsters, available at the nearest indie bookstore.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. I have replaced my longtime suffering co-host this week with a recently suffering co-host, David Alexander Robertson. Justin Curry, known the world over as Chasing Artwork, won't be with us today. And it's hard to find somebody of that caliber to replace him with. We searched high and low. We found you, David. Thanks for coming to the show.
We might be disappointed with that build-up, but you're welcome.
Now, long-time listeners will remember that David has been on the show before, and the dear listeners who have been following my work will know that David and I have worked together on a graphic novel before with singer-songwriter Isque. We also made a book called Will I See? And so in the interest of full disclosure, Dave and I have known each other for a long time, and the way that creative relationships work, they're very intense in brief stints.
Yep.
And then there are these long absences. So, like, in a way, I was saying to Lyndon as I was tidying up a little bit before your arrival, it kind of feels like that family member you like, but you don't see often enough. So you have to clean up when they show up. So, like, I swept before you got here.
Really?
Yeah.
I was actually looking forward to seeing all the toys and stuff. So I'm actually happy you didn't put much of those.
No, we would never put those away.
Yeah.
It's just the general detritus of our lives. I tidied up instead.
It is a marginally good job.
Yeah, marginally.
Yeah.
But I did break out a very special item for you.
You did.
Which I think bears pointing to. I know this is an audio podcast, but the dear listener can make a picture in their mind of our original Masters of the Universe He-Man cell that we broke out for Dave. And this is because recently you were showing a video of your writing space.
Yeah.
And all your Masters of the Universe stuff came up, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's right, I forgot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan. I was actually at a Pearl Jam show. I forgot which one it was, but they had maybe it's Seattle. They had this Masters of the Universe like themed Pearl Jam poster. I was like, that thing's going to be gone by the time I get there. Like, everyone's going to want it. It was like, no one, I mean, people got it, but like it was the lowest selling poster. I couldn't believe it.
That's weird.
Yeah. But this is amazing. This Prince Adam, just chill. I mean, you get to see, like, got a great behind.
Yeah. And you know what is interesting about Prince Adam's little behind there is he's wearing those furry little shorts over his tights.
Yeah.
And like He-Man wears the identical furry shorts.
Right. It's not like Clark Kent wearing the glasses, but
right.
It's
just the change in color from purple to like bare brown that I guess really bamboozles people.
It's amazing that
He-Man loses all his clothes, though. All those clothes come off when he turns into He-Man.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, if I had that body, I'm walking around with no clothes too, everywhere I go.
Oh my god! So for those of you who are wondering, like, okay, so you just brought a He-Man fan on the show. David has been doing the work since around 2009. You have got to be 35 different books and projects out. You work in the graphic novel space. You write novels. You've written memoirs. You have worked as a project manager. You've worked as an editor. You have been all around the book sphere. You've won at least 2 Governor General's awards, unless another one happened while I was looking.
No, the last one, just 2.
We have a loving but true saying around the Manitoba Book Awards is when the things get announced, people look to see which list you aren't on, because then there is some chance.
That's not true, really.
That is 100% true.
Really?
That is 100% true.
That's funny.
Right? If you're on Dave's list, you go to support Dave, who will win.
That's total bullshit, though.
Right?
Like, I mean, I lose, like, I mean, the majority of them, I wouldn't say lose, you don't win.
That's right.
Being nominated
is a win.
It is a win.
It is a win.
Yeah.
And in publishing, it really in different than other industries, it really is a win.
Huge, yeah.
To be on that list, because even being nominated can change your profile completely on your next round of submissions.
Yeah, but there's a time when you tell your publisher not to submit your books anymore. You know, and I've done that with most of the awards for the Manitoba Book Awards now. I just feel like, you know, I think there's a time when you want to leave space for other writers, like new and emerging writers especially, and so I've told my publishers, like, for anything but maybe for the Book of the Year award, which I haven't won before, that you won't worry about it anymore, Greg, because you won't see my name on there.
Oh, but you know, it's funny you say that though, because you raise a really interesting point that I think I'm today years old, considering that the spotlight it creates is best utilized by new talent, like those who will benefit the most from it.
Absolutely.
And so bowing out of them is actually, you know.
I'm not going to take a pat on the back for it, but I think like part of my role now, I think as an older writer, is to make space for and create opportunities for new and emerging writers.
Right. And
that's a big focus of mine now, and the work that I do in the imprint that I'm running.
Okay, we're going there.
Yeah,
we're going to
well, here's the thing. You know, as an Indigenous writer, you know, I'm here because of like Tom King and, you know, Lee Miracle and Beatrice Culleton, now Mazanier, like Marie Campbell, like Richard Wagamies, like you know, they open doorways. And so I was a while ago talking with my one of my best friends, Cherie Demeline, who wrote The Marrow Thieves, and we were talking about like, well, how we need to start opening doors for new writers, like emerging writers. And so we came up with this idea of this imprint, and Cherie, you know,
we did that together. I met her at the Montreal Book Fair. We were on a panel together.
Okay, yeah,
and I found her completely infectious.
She is. She's the best.
Like I spent 40 minutes with her, an hour, and I was like, oh, I hope I can hang out with her all day. I just checked my list. I'm like, I'm hope, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's like that Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly moment, like Step Brothers, or like we met the first time at the GG's in Ottawa in 2017. Like, do we just become best friends? So that's how it was, and we've been like best friends since we met, pretty much. But she's amazing, and so we just thought we need to do this, you know. And Cherie, being Cherie, she just, you know, she's off working in Hollywood. She did a co-writing on Britt Marling's show on Netflix, Murder at the End of the World. She was doing work on like AMC with like Stephen King and like all. So she was too busy. So she dropped out of formerly being a part of it, but I carried on and did it. And now we're doing it at Penguin Random House Canada. But the whole point of it is to really transition into.
Let's not leap over that.
Okay.
Penguin Random House Canada,
right,
came to you and said, "We have an idea for an imprint." I love that so much more.
Yeah.
You came to them and said,
"Yeah,
let us do this."
Right, and they were like, "Go ahead." We're down.
Talk about that moment where it went from being, okay, this is our idea, I think we could put it together, you know, we're best friends, let's take on the big establishment. How did you first approach them? Was it something that you sent through an agent, something you called up, someone you knew? Was it a front door, back door?
I remember like a dinner party we had, where it was like Tundra Books and Kristen Cochran, who's the CEO, and Cherie and her agent, and me and Jackie, my agent, and we just we were kind of celebrating, but also hashing the details out, and it was all just like, you know, Penguin, I think, as along with other publishers, really get that Indigenous literature is like, you know, is not just like it's not a novelty. It's not just important to put the stories out there in the world. It sells, and so they recognize the benefit in it. And so when we came to them with the idea, they were very quickly very interested, and we just had to like work out some of the details of how it was going to look. And when we did that, it was, you know, I was hired pretty quickly, and just off to the races, starting to, you know, put all the infrastructure together and get it ready to launch.
So you didn't come to them and say, you're going to do this, and then they said, well, if we're going to do it, you're going to do it. Was that the
No, I said,
hero of it?
I want to do this, like, I want to do this, and I want you guys to do it. Like,
get behind it, and I'm going to curate.
Yeah.
I'm going to edit. Yeah, I'm going to pick. You mentioned something in the elevator ride here up to the lofty air above Winnipeg that the submission process is going to be very different than what people are used to. And it made my heart grow 3 sizes, literally.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
So the publishing industry can be really intimidating, especially to writers who don't have the seasoning, to know how to break in, and it feels like a big brick wall, especially for someone you can imagine, like someone, who has a story to tell, who's living in a rural community, who doesn't have any idea how to get published, no idea how to submit a query, no idea how to, find an agent. They, it's just, and it's no fault of their own. They just don't have the access.
They're a storyteller.
Yeah, great storyteller.
Yeah,
and no access. And so we want to break down those walls. And so one of my requirements when I came onto it was I don't want there to be requirements really. And so we don't have to. There's no agented or unagented, it's unsolicited, solicited. You just have to have a good story to tell. I want people to be able to send in their submission to me with a little bit of just this is what my story is about. This is the value in it. All they have to really do is just tell me, articulate their indigeneity. They have to be able to tell me a little bit about what the educational value of the story is. It has to be for children, and they have to be Indigenous. And other than that, it's open season, really. And not to say it's going to be easy to get published, because it's hard to get published, but the doors are wider open for this imprint, because we want to find new voices. We want to find emerging voices that otherwise wouldn't have gotten a chance, And so hopefully one day, years from now, there'll be an author who's super established and will be I wouldn't have got this chance, if it wasn't for, this imprint.
right.
And that's the goal, And then maybe one day they'll open a door, and that's how it looks.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing you said that I really liked is you hope that people realize that this is a model they can steal and create competition around.
Yeah, I don't want to be the only one. And right now, there's only 2 in North America, Indigenous-run imprints for major publishing houses. There's Cynthia Ledditch-Smith out of Heart Drum. She runs Heart Drum for HarperCollins, United States. And then there's my imprint with Penguin Random House, and that's it. So I want there to be competition. We talked about this. I want there to be competition because it means higher pay for the writers, higher pay for the illustrators, means more opportunities. So I don't want to be the only one out there. I want there to be people wanting to submit to this imprint or that imprint or this imprint, and then put it to auction.
Right.
And let's get you the most money that you can for the work that you do. So we have a pretty powerful,
And it can be life-changing,
absolutely,
right? Not just
totally
the,
life-changing.
I think it's really not something to step over too quickly, that if you're used to scribbling down your ideas and telling them to your friends and the analogy of the campfire storyteller, wherever that is, at the water cooler or, in the family living room. And then suddenly somebody says, oh, that's a skill, by the way.
Right.
A skill that others don't have, and it's really valuable. And if you can repeat it, we will back this suitcase full of money up to your house,
Literally,
and leave it there.
I mean,
right?
What does a picture book writer get paid now from a major publishing house? Anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000.
Right.
And who knows that in a small community or who's not in the industry? I have no idea how much you can make, working for a major publishing house.
Yeah.
And I've been to so many communities and seen so many talented kids, that they could be illustrating for a picture book now, someone in grade 12. They have no idea, a picture book illustrator for a major publishing house, they could get paid up $30,000 to $50,000, if you establish yourself that. That's a lot of money, and so let's make that available to more than just the established authors we hear about every day.
Yeah. The thing that, it's what I said to you when you first brought that up. It's it's suddenly you're creating a publishing system that is not inherently classist.
Yeah.
As its ground floor.
Right. And it's so we'll have a submission from a big writer. Can't say who because it's in the list, but But then we have a submission from a new writer, and I can have the conversation with my boss, with my team. Well, we pay this person that, and I know that we can't pay this person as much, but we can definitely pay them this,
Right.
And so that it eliminates a lot of the, like you said, like a lot of the classist attitude in the publishing industry, where I'm like, this is new writer, they don't know what they can get paid. Let's pay them what they're worth.
Yeah.
Let's pay them what we would pay them if went to auction, maybe. And let's get them the money that they deserve for writing a story.
Yeah. And I think what I love about this, just as a concept, but what I really feel strongly about is that whenever the people who have to oversee any job, they should have been people who did the job themselves once.
Yeah.
And so you being a person who figured out how to scratch out your idea, how to find an illustrator, how to approach a publisher, how to deal with the problem of agenting, you're not standing up there saying, oh, we should change everything now that I'm through. You're saying, think of how much better it would have been if all that stuff hadn't been in the way.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a very atypical publishing journey, so I learned everything on the fly. I didn't know what I was doing when I came into it. Like when 7 Gen came out, 15 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing, and so I learned just, book by book, word by word almost. And bringing that knowledge, I think that lived experience to this role is, I think, what's going to make it successful.
I've told you this story before, and we may have even mentioned it on the previous episode, but my first experience with 7 Gen and its power to the reader was as a teacher when I was in the classroom. And there was a not insignificant number of students who would take the book out from the library and then never return, just renew it and renew it and renew it until our librarian said, that's yours now. They would get a new copy into the library and they would tell that kid, that's yours now.
Yeah.
And it would change their relationship. And this one student I had who he had the most tattered, most repaired, most lovingly, this is my object copy of 7 Generations, a stone, that I had ever seen a comic carried around like that. And it was, I think for him, a object that helped him manage his anxiety.
Right.
He would take it out when things were getting tough and he would have it. And, he had read it so many times. He knew every frame, everything.
Right.
But it was his way of saying, maybe this place I'm in, this classroom I'm in is not for me, but there's at least somebody out there who understands my role in the classroom and what I'm going through. So, and you mentioned earlier sort of the responsibility that you see of not having a public face and a private face.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what is connecting with people. For all the jokes I made about, if you're on Dave's list, you're not going to win. I think it's because too many people hold back too much. And there's not much you hold back from your writing.
I don't think so. And I think that probably that's part of what's made me successful. One of the things that made me successful is just being willing to put yourself out there into every story that you do. And whether it's like a fictional story or nonfiction, I really lay bare everything, and when I'm speaking on it, whether it's in a classroom or to a bunch of teachers or at a launch or at a conference, it's also, just telling everybody everything about my life that I think is worthwhile for them to know. And I think that's what has been able to build a community around me, is that sort of connection that people feel to me. And, so many times I've had people just tell me when I come to the classroom, I emailed you a couple of years ago. I'm always like, oh God, please, did I email you back? And they're like, yeah, you emailed me back right away. And so that kind of connection, I think, is important. We're not in the positions we are in without our readers, and to respect them enough to just, open yourself up to them, I think is, if you feel safe enough to do that, I think. And I had to really, even though 7 Gen was a pretty open book, and I was talking with Catherine the other day, my publisher for 7 Gen, and she was like, that was your first mental health book, and it was my first book. I didn't realize that, until just yesterday I saw her, and she mentioned that. But I worked my way up to the kind of the being able to be brave enough to tell people that when my dad died, I was ready to commit suicide, like that sort of thing. And but then you always get 5, 10, 15 people who will email you after, be like, me too.
Yeah.
And then that's the connection that stories bring. That's the
Right.
magic of stories.
The darkness is rising to embrace you.
The dark can embrace the light, but never eclipse it. You've not won yet, Skeletor. He-Man is still alive. I can feel it.
Really? How sensitive you are. Can you feel this?
You've been successful. And when you are successful, anyone is successful in any industry, the rest of the industry responds by asking for a piece of you, right? And then you're also a person who clearly has integrity. And that integrity has made you an activist on many Indigenous issues, but also educational ones. And so that's sort of an oath that you have to take for yourself and with yourself, to be honest, to be open. And but then you're also a father who has a responsibility. And all of these things you're talking about, all these problems of success, they all pull a little bit of the thread. How do you stay together?
I mean, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't stay together. You kind of find yourself one day you wake up and you can't get out of bed, and then you realize that you overdid it, probably for the year. So I think part of what I have to learn still in my career is like when is what you're doing too much, and when is it affecting your health, your mental health, physical health. When is it affecting your family? And I still haven't quite figured that out yet.
I was going to say, you're going to now tell us the perfect balancing recipe.
I don't have it.
No.
Because I want to, my dad was my biggest role model, and he was my biggest teacher. And I saw all the good he did in the world. And I want to do like half of what he did, And I feel like to do that, I got to do everything all the time,
Right. Yeah.
And that gets me into trouble, just in terms of the overextension.
Right. There's just one of you, though.
This is one of me, and so I'm home this week. This is first week of February, just for context for the listener, because this will air later, I'm assuming. But
depends how much we talk about your imprint.
But like I'm not going to be home for more than a couple of days now till end of March, so that's time away from my kids.
Yeah.
Time away from home. And time away from responsibilities of, the stuff I have to do in the home. And so it's a trade-off, and you have to learn the balance of that trade-off. So, and I haven't quite learned that yet. And my dad was great at it, that balance, but, not at first either. Him and my mother were separated for the first 12 years of my life, really. And, up until grade 8, maybe grade 9. And I always thought, because I was so ignorant about, my indigeneity and Indigenous people growing up, I had no idea. I always thought it was because maybe he was like drinking too much, or doing maybe he was too lazy.
Right.
All the tropes,
the cliches and tropes had
totally
settled on you also.
So how surprising was it when I learned really about my dad's life from mom and dad, and they're like, "Oh, your dad, he's just working too hard. He's like going out all the time. He was always away building programs." Building education programs for people so they can teach in their own communities.
Right.
It's programs that are still running today. And that overextension led to the breakdown of the marriage,
Right.
And they spent years to work on it, and then finally they got back together, but that hurt, and it hurt me and my brothers. And so I realized as well, like oftentimes, whether it's through my mental health struggles or just from being away, that I've hurt my kids, And so I have to be better at being a dad, And it's not just supporting my kids through what I do in the writing world. It's being there to take them fucking to hockey,
Yeah, just be there.
Yeah, just be there. They don't
no
care.
grand gesture.
They don't care about how many books I've sold.
Yeah.
They don't care that I can pay for the tuition. They care that I can, bring them out for a car ride to the flea market.
I'll tell you right now that my youngest son, it's just like that. Well, it's just dad. Yeah, that's just dad's job. Like they don't think of it as special in any way. For the first time ever, my youngest son saw my job as special because he got to meet one of the voice actors for the Predator franchise.
Oh,
the
yeah.
person that voiced it. Like he was like, oh, your job is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But like nothing else
Right.
really settles in on them because you're just either at work,
Yeah.
and so you're not available,
Right.
or you're getting ready to go to work,
Mhm.
so you're only partially available,
Yeah.
right? Or you're not at work at all, but now you're tired because you work all the time.
Yeah.
And so you're also in a diminishing return. I go through that. And
Yeah.
so I have to cycle through times where I will block out and I will tell them, this is just how I've managed, how I try to deal with it. And it's not perfect. But I say, on these days at these times, you will have 100% of my attention, whatever you want to do, even if it's nothing,
Yeah.
right? Even if you decide that I'm busy,
Yeah.
totally fine.
Yeah.
You're not responsible for my availability, but I am available if
Right.
you want it.
Yeah.
That's helped
Yeah.
teenagers.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what I have to learn how to get to. And I don't want it to be commonplace for them, even though it kind of is for them to like, I'll come home after being away for a week and a half or 2 weeks. And then they'll just be like, hey, Dad,
Here.
Oh,
man.
And it's like, oh, shit, like they didn't even know I was gone. It's that hurts.
Yeah.
But so that I don't know the formula. I suck at it probably. Yeah. But I think it's like, feeling like, and I don't think there's an obligation, but like giving of yourself to everybody.
Yeah.
It takes a toll personally.
And when it's making a difference,
I
toll is
other
heavier.
people can assess whatever impact I've had. I don't know.
Right.
But I try to do something worthwhile, to help other people.
But what I mean by that is it's not your responsibility how you are or aren't helping. But when you hear a tale that it did help,
Right.
that must change the calculation for you in a way that is troublesome.
Well, I mean, I think, I'm lucky enough that people feel open enough to like email me or message me or call me or whatever it might be. And so I get a fair number of those thanks for writing the book, or whatever. All Little Monsters, like it's been out for a couple of weeks. I've already gotten probably 30, 40, 50 emails, and so, yeah, you're right. Like hearing that you've helped people in some way by writing that book makes you want to help more people,
Yeah.
But like you can't help everybody.
Yeah. But then your kid there and the knots on his skates are
He
too
needs
tight
help.
and he needs help.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
even more valuable.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard road to even be a little bit successful.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine as someone who can call up Penguin Random House and say, listen, you're going to do this.
I've just been lucky in my career.
Right.
So much of it is luck and timing, and I mean, a lot of it's hard work, but, so much of it is luck and timing too. The books that I have that have really catapulted me in being able to do what I do, it's just all been luck and timing, a lot of it. They're good books, but, When We Were Alone, I mean, that book really put me on the map. And that came out right when the TRC, was out.
Right.
And it was right around reconciliation was being like a big thing. And it wasn't like, it wasn't me taking advantage of it. It just happened to come out. I saw the TRC report. This needs to be here.
For non-Canadian listeners,
Yeah.
talk about, and like, it is not your responsibility to educate the listener, but when you're talking about truth and reconciliation, how do you encapsulate that to someone who is living in a country where that is not an issue? Or not an issue they accept as an issue.
Not an issue they're acknowledging.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, colonialism, is pretty widespread. But so in Canada and in the United States, I think it would be like looking at a fractured relationship. You're looking at the fractured relationship between Indigenous, non-Indigenous people. And it's trying to build a good relationship. It's not rebuilding it because it was never built in the first place. I think that's the misnomer of reconciliation.
Right.
It's not reconciliation because we're not fixing something that was once good.
Yeah.
We're building something for the first time. So I don't know what you call it. I call it community building. That's what I call it. But yes, when I talk about reconciliation, I'm talking about we're building relationships with people, and we're also healing ourselves. We have a lot of healing to do, Indigenous people. That's reconciliation. And within our families, our communities, that's reconciliation. The broader thing, I think we're just trying to build a good relationship, based on like mutual trust, respect, and understanding. So the whole thing about truth and reconciliation is it's like learning about the past, learning about like what brought us here, as a country, and then figuring out a way forward, like together. And maybe we don't do the same thing, but we're working towards the same goal.
If you find the key, activate the sourcing signal. Good journey.
Good journey.
Good journey.
So then as one person working towards that goal who has some cachet in an industry that needs to be woken up sometimes to what the needs of the people are, you were able to say, okay, listen, I've got the receipts. The books are selling.
Yeah.
And even if you care nothing but the sales,
right,
I can show you that there's a place where there are sales to be had. And that wakes up the slumbering accountant enough to say, oh, wow, we do have a certain budget for right. It just takes a person to ask sometimes.
Lucky enough, all credit due to Penguin, but lucky enough, they're full of people who care. Like they give a shit, and it feels weird to talk about that, but like it's this multinational company. But like the people that I work with there, right from the CEO to the publisher at Tundra, editors, they all really care. They want to. So yes, there's the knowledge. Everybody in the publishing industry knows Indigenous lit sells now.
Yeah.
Like you look at the bestseller list every week.
But why does it sell is my question. And I'll try and answer that by saying it's because it's important. Right now, this is important, right? Everyone's looking at it. You say timing is what helped you, but you were writing about something that was important to everyone else at the same time as that was being drawn attention to. So that's why you're plugged into the zeitgeist.
It's important, and people recognize that. And I think they recognize like the importance of the diversity of voice. So that's why we have BIPOC writers. That's why you have writers from the LGBTQI2S community doing really well. As much as we're also being banned. But like it's important, but we're also good at it. And so like Canadians like in supporting Indigenous lit are not doing a charity. We're good at charity as Canadians, but they want a book that'll entertain them.
Yeah.
And so it just so happens that we're very good storytellers and we're writing about things that are important. And people recognize that importance. So I think it's like this perfect marriage of skill and ability and voice, and
it's the right time, like you say,
perfect
to
time.
hear the voice.
Yeah.
Right.
And so people recognize that. And, you look at like, whether it's Braiding Sweetgrass or, The Marrow Thieves or The Break or, Wabgishig Rice, Moon of the Crusted Snow, like whatever, these books are on the bestseller list, like perennially, every week, every year.
Yeah.
All year.
Yeah.
The Barren Grounds, like I'm lucky enough. That's been the bestseller every single weeks for the last 5 years, like every week in Canada.
And so your listener, if you're wondering, is it just people thinking that, I'll, buy the ticket and support the cause and then move on? That's not how books sell.
No.
Books sell when people read them, are moved by them, and tell other readers, you got to read this.
That's exactly what it is. One thing I love most about, and this is maybe getting a bit in the weeds. Not really. It's getting a bit.
We live in the weeds here.
A bit of a beeline, but like, All the Little Monsters.
Welcome to the weeds.
One of the best things I saw about it this week was it was not that it was the best-selling depression book or anxiety book on Amazon. It was the most gifted.
Most.
That meant the most to me.
Oh.
That was the number one most gifted book in anxiety. And that means people are buying it for other people.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool to see.
That is cool to see.
Yeah.
What's it like to know that your own journey, your own life is being used as medicine for others?
That's probably for someone else to say. Like, I don't really, I'm just glad that if my book helps somebody, I think that that is validation enough for me that the story I wrote was meaningful. It's a starfish thing, if this book saves one person, I think that was a book worth writing. But that someone else can assess that.
Sure.
I don't really sit back and ever think about the good things I've done. I just think that I want to do things that I feel can help. And that my dad was the same way. He always. So one of the moments that I think helped shape my life as a writer, we were driving home one day from the golf course, I think, and I was talking to my dad about all the jobs you could have had, because my dad, he was sought after for politics, bigger corporations, like he a lot of people knew him. And I said, why didn't you take those jobs, Dad? He looked at me like I should have known the answer already. He said, I took the jobs that allowed me to help people, not the ones that paid me the most. And he wanted me to do the same thing. You know, he wanted me to help people with what I was doing. He didn't want me to worry about money, you know. Right. And I mean, lucky enough that I'm support my family with what I do, but I don't think about, you know, is this book going to be a bestseller?
Right.
You know, I think about, is this book going to help somebody? And my dad, when he died, the last notebook he kept, he had a note taped to the inside of the inside cover, and there was a quote by Edward Everett Hale, and it said, "I'm only one, but still I'm one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. And even though I can't do everything, I won't let it stop me from doing the one thing I can do." That's helping, you know. That's the intention of to help, you know.
Right.
And so it's I have that tattooed on my wrist, you know, and it helps me to remind me of like why I do what I do. So yeah, I don't assess it. I just try to, like, I guess, do it. Like, I'm like a dog chasing a car.
And I think it bears mentioning that it wasn't like instant success, lauded success right out the gate where you could just quit your job and haha, that was fine. You labored a long time with a career and a family and also the writing and all of those things.
Yeah.
It wasn't, you know, people think about, like, someone hearing about you now sees you as a breakout success.
Oh, God, no.
Right? But that's the danger of someone who suddenly sees you on the bestseller list. They've never heard of you before. They go, oh, this guy came out of nowhere, without ever realizing it took you 25 years to get to be a breakout success.
I mean, well, like, I wanted to write since I was 8 years old. Got published when I was 32. I was able to quit my job finally, like maybe just 3 years ago. So, 45. So now it's my career.
Yeah.
You know, and I just took this job at Penguin. I would have done it for free. You know, don't tell Penguin that, but like,
Dan, edit that part out.
But like, I didn't, and this is not to flex or anything. I don't need the salary from Penguin. You know, it's nice. You know, I can do a bit more with it, but like, I would have done it because I wanted to do it. I didn't do it with Cherie. We didn't talk about it thinking like, oh, they're going to pay us this.
Right.
It was like, no, we're going to do this because we want to do that.
Well, and you've been around publishing to know that it's probably a whole lot of work for no money. If it, you know, that can be how it goes when you're trying to start an imprint or try to start something.
Yeah.
So that can't be your motivation in getting words to people or pictures to people can't be, I'm going to get rich. That's wrong.
No. And no, there are very few rich Canadian writers.
That's right.
You know, and I'm not. So it's like, I do well, but like, I've worked really hard for that, you know, and a lot of people work very hard, don't. And I also recognize how that is lucky for me that I've been able to tap into something with just like 3 books, really, maybe 4 have like really helped me work as a writer full time.
Yeah.
You know,
and isn't that interesting that it took, 30 to find the 3 or 4?
Yeah. It's like When We Were Alone, it's The Barren Ground. It's like, you know, those books are like the majority of my income, you know, as a writer, like from like actual book sales, right? Yeah.
I, Skeletor, am master of the universe.
Do you ever have a moment where you look on your shelf, or I don't know how I saw your writing space, so I'm not sure where the archive of your own work sits, or if it's just in a dusty box, as so many of us do, like we don't.
Some of it is.
Right? Yeah. But is there a piece of your own body of work that you wished had reached a broader audience that didn't?
No. And the reason why is because something I learned from my dad as well is you can't go back and change anything, you know. And so the books that I've done did what they did because they were supposed to. You know?
Whatever they could do, they did.
Whatever they could do, they did. And they connected with the people to whatever capacity they were supposed to. It's the same thing I look at with like mental health. You know, I've asked a lot of questions. I've been asked a lot of questions like, you know, if you go back and tell yourself something, your younger self something, to avoid any of this, like what would you tell them?
Yeah.
And I said I wouldn't tell them anything. You know, like all the stuff I've been through with mental health, you know, from being suicidal to being like, you know, holed up in my bed for 6 months, to like, you know, canceling a trip to Germany just 5 months ago because I woke up with a panic attack that lasted like 3-4 months long, like all that stuff, all those like the really shitty, terrible times, all of that and the good times, like winning the Governor General's Award, all that makes me who I am, not just the good stuff.
Yeah.
So if I changed anything about what I've been through, then I'm not David anymore.
Right.
And you have to, it's hard for me, but like, you have to learn to love yourself, like for who you are, like for all the stuff that you don't like about yourself, all the stuff that you do, all the good stuff that has happened, all the bad stuff. You have to learn to accept all of that as a part of who you are, And it was like this quote from Stephen Colbert, like doing a talk with Anderson Cooper. And he's like, gratefulness. And he's like, you have to be grateful for everything in your life.
Yeah.
We can't pick and choose because everything that's happened has made you who you are, So I've tried to apply that. Of course, sometimes I still regret stuff, but I'm getting better at accepting.
Do you think that, we were talking, a couple of things have sort of all clicked into place, like little lenses over like at an eye doctor right now, because we talked about the ways in which you felt like, oh, I'm not always there for my family. Oh, I can't always be there for the reading community. Oh, I can't always, but you also talk about how you have to accept what you are. And truth and reconciliation is also, we're not reconciling a good time, right? There was a rupture. And so what I'm getting to here is based on a conversation I was having with my own teenage sons just yesterday. It's not that our relationship won't be ruptured by shitty things that you guys do or shitty things that I do. It's whether or not you are committed to the repair. My turn for emotion. I was so stoic in the last one. This time it hit me. But this is it, right?
Yeah.
So what repairs are you committed to?
In my career?
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely things that I feel I can be of value, I feel like I can be a good voice in the building of community. That's something I feel like, especially with the luck I've had in being able to build a platform. I feel also that also brings with it a responsibility that you have to do good things with it, and so that's also, you have to sacrifice a lot to do that, You have to sacrifice a lot to do those good things, I think. And so that's part of it. I feel like I have done like okay. I feel like there's more that I can do. More and more, I feel like mental health is a big thing that we're recognizing in Canada and beyond Canada, beyond these borders, like beyond these imaginary borders, like that. Mental health is like this huge issue, that so many more people are dealing with it than we thought, and so we need to understand that it's something that we either are going through or someone we know is definitely going through it,
Definitely
going through it. And so accepting that and learning how to address it and learning how to live with it or help someone live with it is going to save lives, and so like I said, the response to monsters has been overwhelming, and I can't believe what's happened in the 2 weeks, but in the same time I can, because with the advocacy work that I've done with like the people I've surrounded myself with, like, whether it's Sheila Rogers or Sri Demeline or, Alicia Elliott or, but we've seen it, how profoundly people are suffering from mental health struggles, and all they need sometimes is to Jesus. When I was really struggling, when I was suicidal, like when my dad died, Scott Henderson drew me a comic. And it was about this guy in a hole. Have you seen that? Have you seen that story?
No.
So this guy's in a hole, and there's 3 guys that walk by. He calls up to one guy's a priest, and the priest walks by and he asks for help. The priest looks down and he said, "I'll pray for you." And then he keeps walking, and the guy's still in the hole. Then a doctor walks by. He's like, "Can you help me?" And the doctor writes him a prescription, throws it down into the hole. Can't fill it. Can't do anything with it.
Right.
Doctor keeps walking. And then a regular just dude walks up, and the guy's like, "Can you help me?" And the guy just like jumps over the edge and crawls in the hole with him. And he's like, "What are you doing? Like, now we're both in here." And the guy says, "I've been here before. I know how to get out of here." And I think that's what we need. I think we need to surround ourselves with people who know the way out of there.
Been there before.
Yeah. And hopefully, like, I can be that for some people, you know.
Yeah, we don't need authorities as much as we need guides right now.
Yeah, yeah. And Scott, that comic really helped me, you know. I only ever really told Scott how much that comic helped me, you know. But you also need to tell people, you know, that they helped you.
What is it, Kevin?
God, I wish that thing would shut up. Well, thanks.
You've got all this. This is a heavy weight. Like if I had all this on my shoulders and now I have to be creative, right?
Yeah.
Making up stories is also so fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It can be so fun.
Yeah.
How are you walking this knife's edge of there's a lot. People are expecting a lot. I can help if I hit it right.
Yeah.
But man, I just need to write a story that is also going to take me somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the admission I have to make is I haven't written really for about 5 months, you know. And I mentioned this earlier a little bit, but like, you know, I woke up one morning, supposed to go to Germany to tour my books over there for Berlin, for the Berlin International Writers Festival.
Right. Yeah.
And I woke up at like 1 a.m. and maybe 2 a.m. and I woke up in full panic, and just everything was going haywire. And I was supposed to go to the airport in like 3 hours to get, and I was like, "There's no way." And I remember thinking to myself, if I go to Germany, I'm not coming back from Germany.
Wow.
You know, it's not that I'm not don't want to abscond and, you know, stay in Germany. Right. So yeah, I'm just not going to make it out, you know. And so I stayed home and I canceled my flight. I ate the money and I stayed home for that week and I rested, you know, and I just stayed in bed mostly. And then my body was telling me that you needed to look after yourself a little better. You know,
saying no is something that people who have lots of responsibilities have a real hard time to do. So
really hard.
Let's not jump over the fact that you woke up in the middle of the night, felt that, but then knew you had to say no.
Yeah. You learn to, there's a balance. Like, you know, I always talk about these, you know, anxiety is a monster. You know, it tells you all these things. It makes you feel things that scare you, keep you from doing things, you know. But sometimes it tries to help.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to learn when to listen to it and when not to listen. That's the objectivity of anxiety, is when you have to learn how to be able to like look at it from a macro level and just to see it without the subjectivity of like your own experience, from being in your own body, in your own mind, and just rationalize what it's trying to say to you. And if you can do that and say, well, he's probably actually has a point here, you know, then that's the time you can probably listen to it. I got my gallbladder out in February last year, and I actually stayed home for 8 hours with my gallbladder bursting because I thought, oh, this is my anxiety. You know, this is not my stomach problem. This is my anxiety is causing my stomach to hurt. You know, and then finally I was like, oh, I better go to the hospital. 8 hours later, I went to the hospital, sat in the waiting room for 6 hours. My aunt died from after having gallbladder surgery. You know, and she died from an infection. So I was thinking about that a lot. And so I thought about it after, but I got into the doctor's office, the emergency room, and then they did a little archaic ultrasound, and they said, I think I see a stone. So they sent me to like an actual ultrasound, and it was like, your gallbladder is full of stones. Like it's all stones. So I was like, if you waited another day or two, you may not have been okay. Like, that was it would be very dangerous. So they got my gallbladder out the next day. But that was like another thing where it's like my body was, was really very sick.
Right.
But I was so sure it was my anxiety.
Right.
I couldn't, for a while, I couldn't see the forest for the trees. I was just like, well, it's just, as always happens, my anxiety has caused my stomach,
Right.
And so it took a while where I was able to be like, actually, this is a problem, And so that was what I was like in Germany. When I was about to go to Germany, I was like, this is a problem. And I need to listen to it this time.
It's bigger than I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I honestly, if I went to Germany, I might not be here.
Like, do you think then that that insight is what allowed you to write the book, All the Little Monsters? Or do you think All the Little Monsters is now, having written it, is giving you some of that insight?
I think it's both. So I think, living with anxiety, mental health stuff, like depression, for so long, you do have, I think, some hard-won wisdom about the struggle, But I think as well, like writing the book and the medicine that I found in the book for myself, and revisiting stuff I even forgotten when I was a kid, and revisiting things I'd been through, like my dad's death, or like this breakdown I had 15 years ago, and learning about myself through that revisitation, it did bring me to a point where I was able to put a few more tools in my toolbox, and if I had been through what I've been through in September, if that happened like 10 years ago, I would have been on my ass for months. Like and I was in bed for about a week for the most part, just resting. And then the next week I was in Toronto doing work, and I still wasn't well, but I'd done enough that I was able to do what I had to do to keep working for my family, And but so I think it's both. I think it is me being able to translate to the readers what I've learned through my own experiences. But I think I also learned from it. And I was also taught myself stuff for, maybe in 10 years this happens again, maybe I'll be recovering a little bit quicker than I did this time.
Read your own book, because the letter to yourself 10 years from now.
Maybe.
Reply to that.
Yeah.
What is, let's get into briefly get into the actual creative practice or writing schedule that you adhere to make these things possible. A lot of people think genius arrives in a bucket and you just pour it out and transfer to someone else, but you and I both know it's a labor of days and hours and months and years.
Yeah.
How's that? Why don't you talk a little bit about how you do a day of work when it's time to work?
Well, I write very little, actually. For me, when
this
I'm
is the
working
music people have been waiting to hear. Oh, I don't have to write very much.
Well, I should preface that by saying, like, the majority of my work is in the traveling that I do. Like I'm in schools almost every day, or at a conference, or in the office at Penguin, or I'm at like a launch, or I'm hosting a launch, or I'm whatever. I'm always doing something. I'm always working. I'm like responding to emails. I've had email open for like unanswered for like a day or two. I had to respond like 80 emails. So there's always that work. It's always I work hard, probably, I don't know, 14, 15 hours a day, maybe something like that. Writing. Here's the thing about writing a book. It's hard, but it's so manageable for anybody. If you think about like a book, typical book, 60,000 words, maybe 80,000 words. You think, oh, that's a lot of words. I don't know if I can do that. Well, what if you did like 1,000 words today? Just 1,000. That's like 3 pages, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you did just three pages? And what if you did that again tomorrow? What if you did that for 5 days this week? And then you did it for the whole month? Well, math is not great. I think by the end of the month, you have about 20,000 words. Then you do that for 4 months, you have 80,000 words. Then you have a first draft. Then the real work starts, So then editing starts. Mm-hmm. Editing is like a lot of waiting.
Oh, so much waiting.
So much waiting,
process,
Yeah. Like, so I often say, I'm editing a book for like maybe 8 months around there. Actively editing maybe 4 months. I'm waiting for 4 months. But so a book from start to finish, first draft to like maybe 6 to 8 drafts, maybe more. It's going to be about a year and a half. But I just take it off in manageable chunks. I mean, I hate to use like smart, but like that's what it is, right? It's like you have to be a measurable goal for yourself when you're working through a project like that.
Yeah.
Do what you can every day. Make sure you take off enough that you won't procrastinate, or you won't feel like you have to procrastinate or tempted to procrastinate.
Right.
So you just do, and the same is true with a picture book. You know, a picture book, like I can't draw, you can. But like, a picture book I can write, a good one, I could write a first draft in like maybe 3 hours. You know, editing it, that's going to take me like 4 months, maybe. You know, so. But then it's the same
because it's more like a poem in that way, right? The ideas there, but it has to be shaped and shaped and shaped. Yeah.
Picture book writing is the hardest, form of writing, I think. And so, but it's the same thing. You just take whatever you can every day. So like with editing, if I have to edit a whole novel, I'll edit maybe like a chapter a day. But I finish my chapter, I just leave it.
Right.
I go back and do it tomorrow. I do another chapter, leave it next day. It's very methodical, and, but so that in that way, I'm working hard, but for like very small segments of each day. I might be writing and editing for maybe 2 hours a day, and the rest of the day I'm doing other stuff.
It's like a marathon of sprints.
Yeah, absolutely, totally. That's what it is. Right. Yeah.
Okay, last question then. I think a lot of people worry about starting because they don't know where it would go, like what the point is. They don't have a home for the book. They don't have a now. Do you still get rejections? Like, I wonder where this will go. Part of the process, does that ever get in your way?
That's the excitement of the story, though.
Right.
Like, I mean, I'm a lot of the times I'm a planner. Like, I know where it's going. Like, you have to with a series. Like, the Bearing Grounds and the Mistwalk Saga, I had that planned out from the start. What would happen almost every scene. For like a book like The Theory of Crows, like literary fiction, I didn't know. I knew where I wanted to end.
You pantsed The Theory of Crows?
I pantsed it all. So I knew where I was starting. I knew my characters really well because they were me and my daughter and my dad. And I knew where I wanted to end up. I just let them go. Just said, like, you just bring me to that trap line. Right. Just get me there, and I'll just go with you. So I just followed them, and so that's the exciting part of creation is like, is it getting there, the journey. That's the exciting part. That's like the expedition of writing, of like learning, of growing, of understanding your place in the world is the journey. Mm-hmm. That's the exciting part of creation and writing, art, whatever it might be. It's like the whole process of following your characters to where they need to be. You bring them there, or they bring you there.
I couldn't imagine a better place to stop our episode than to invite all of our dear listeners to set out on their own expedition of writing. This has been Super Pulp Science. I am Jim B. Kamichuk, encouraging you to join the fight and make comics.